Cool. Yeah, my name is Doron Sadja, and I'm a sound artist and a light artist from Los Angeles, California originally, but I'm currently living in Berlin. So this piece is about kind of thinking about, white light is the presence of all frequencies of the visible spectrum, so all colors together equal white. And it's the same with white noise, where it's all the sounds in the audible spectrum. Everything that you can hear is present at the same volume. And so I was interested in how these are similar and how I can maybe kind of break these things apart. I think originally one of the ideas was this concept of a prism, where when you put white light through a prism, it becomes all the colors that you can see. And I was kind of interested in doing a similar thing with sound, but maybe in reverse. For a long time, I like to take titles from pop songs, or lyrics from pop songs, or just kind of things like this to just create a dialogue with the work. And We Are Never Ever Ever Getting Back Together is from a Taylor Swift song, and I'm a very big Taylor Swift fan. As I was working on this piece about white noise and thinking about bringing together all these harmonies and colors together to create white, I felt like, this idea, it does work. You can make these interlocking structures of sound and light that create white, but it also doesn't work. And I kind of felt like there was this hopelessness to this activity of what I was trying to do, and this idea of we are never ever ever getting back together, it just somehow it fit the piece conceptually, and I'm a Taylor Swift fan, so it all just came together well. So yeah, in general, every time I've done it, I work on new sounds and work with kind of new machines to project sound and light. I'm very much of a site-specific artist, so I like to tailor each piece as much as possible to this situation. And so I tried to get as many photos and whatnot of the space beforehand, and to think about, well, how do people engage with the space? People walk up and down. It's more of a transient space. A lot of the movement of the lights has to do with kind of moving up this way rather than kind of spinning around this way. It's mostly kind of this direction. And I just spend many, many, many hours testing lights, testing sounds. All the sounds that happen, they're generally not samples, but they're instruments that I've built that have generative elements. And so I can control the general idea of what they do, but a lot of what they do is kind of on their own. And I create a bunch of instruments that I think work with the space and with the concept, and then I kind of set them into motion. So there's not actually like a time, this piece doesn't last 10 minutes. There's, it'll always keep changing. There are moments where it gets really loud and intense, and I love those moments. I can never know when they're going to happen because it's generative, and sometimes they don't come together at times that I think they do. So it's interesting. Sometimes the climax for different sections happen together, and sometimes it's separate. So yeah, I kind of never know what's going to happen. So yeah, I think that's sometimes the most exciting way to work. Where you kind of have to respond to a situation and it's out of your control. I like making work that there's no right place to view it. And one of the problems with installations or performances is that often audiences don't like to move, or they don't feel like they're allowed to. It's very hard to get audiences to do that. And this is a stairway, so people have to move through the space. And I find that it's great because that's exactly what I wanted people to do, and they don't really have a choice. So I very much like that. I'm a little worried that people may move too fast through it because it is a stairway and that you're used to moving too fast. My favorite spot to view it is to stand in this entrance room and look up, but also I'm sure a lot of people will stand here and then just go immediately, but this is my favorite spot. So I think it works really well for the piece. In We Are Never Ever Ever Getting Back Together, it's a piece that I think really, if you just move, find a location, stand for a while, go up and down the stairs, even feel free to close your eyes, because the light is really an important part of the work, but I think it's also really nice to experience just the sound. You know, originally the piece did have sound to it, but the idea for this museum was that we wouldn't have any sound. And you know, one of the things I love about sound is that it's a vibration. It's spatial just by its very nature. You know, a sound comes out of my mouth, but it completely fills the room, it bounces off the walls, and the room is filled with vibrations. And light is a vibration, you know, absolutely, but it's not quite the same way. And I thought was interesting about working in a space like an anechoic chamber is that the architecture is very complex. And so if you have a lot of light sources, you can create this play of shadows where the room starts to vibrate and move. And so the idea was that in a silent room, to use light so that the room is what's vibrating instead of sound. There are 12 lamps. Each lamp has 48 lights on it and can be individually controlled to create different shadows. And actually it is a really intense piece. I actually made it a lot less flashy than maybe would be necessary to make it really intensely vibrate. It can actually be pretty psychedelic and overwhelming. So I do a mixture of kind of different types of play with light. But it's amazing how the room can really start to shake and move. And in the anechoic chamber, there's actually a lot of different scenes it goes through. So there's many things, you're never going to see it all. And it's also generative. But there are a few moments, if you're lucky enough to go in at the right moment, there's times where it does these flickering really fast, where it goes through a similar thing where it tries to create white, but not through shining different colors at the same location, but about going really fast, like red, green, blue, so fast that it looks white. It's not perfect. I think maybe it's something I'd like to experiment more with in the future. But actually, if you move your head really quickly, you see trails of colors. But if you look directly, you see white. And so that was kind of a reference to this piece. I think that there is this idea about anechoic chambers that it's silent. So it's going to be like a relaxing or soothing experience. But it's actually a really kind of awful experience to be in an anechoic chamber. We don't like silence. If you go into a real anechoic chamber, a lot of people fall over or when they first walk in because our experience of reality, of our space, of our balance is so dependent on sound and we're not aware of it. And as soon as you enter a silent room, it's not a nice thing. Most people can only stay about 20 minutes in it. This one, you know, it's part of an exhibition, so it's not a pure anechoic chamber. It's very silent, but it's not, it won't make people feel sick. The lights might, but that's okay. Yeah. And in the anechoic chamber, I suggest the corner, so you have the most sound and light isolation. And I would say, especially in that room, there are lights in there, and they're very visible. But and you can look at them, and it's interesting to look at the lights, but it's about shadow. So I would definitely suggest looking at places where there's not lights and trying to absorb the room rather than the lights themselves. There's nothing specific. I think just to enjoy it, you know, take some time. Maybe walk up and down the stairs, you know, maybe take a moment to sit in the room. In each one of my pieces that I present here, but in general, I always want it to feel like this is something that you can only experience now, you can only experience it here. You can experience the same piece somewhere else, but it'll be totally different. So this is a special opportunity for you to have an experience, and I hope that you take that experience. But this is just something in terms of our everyday life to just appreciate the moment in a way. And I think that immersive art, I think that art that is site-specific can really invite people to engage with their experience in the moment.